All right, everyone, thank you for joining us. We're live here at the Signal headquarters doing a special Q&A with Cary Quashen. I'm going to have Cary introduce himself, but we're talking today about the local drug problem. Lately it's been heroin, but there are other things you need to know and some important facts and details we're going to be talking about. Cary, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your credentials.
Great to be here. My name is Cary Quashen. I'm with Action Family Counseling, Alcohol and Drug Treatment Centers, where we have residential treatment centers, outpatient clinics, and everything in between. I'm also the executive director of Henry Mayo's Behavioral Health Systems.
So you're seeing a lot of you're pretty much the boots on the ground for this fight against drugs.
We're right in the middle of it.
And we're seeing a lot of it lately with special attention on the latest overdoses that we've seen. Earlier in the week there was a press conference where you had joined Dr. Bud Lawrence from Henry Mayo Newell Hospital to talk about some of the things we've been seeing.
Correct.
What are some of those things that we're seeing? Because I know heroin's it's not new.
You know, I've been screaming now for 10 years. I've been treating people with alcohol and drug addictions for over 30, and it's changed dramatically in the last 10 years. The drugs, first of all, the drugs are different than ever before. The marijuana it used to be 0.3 milligrams THC, it's up to 30, up to 80 if you're doing edibles. The opiates explosion right now is off the hook, and in fact it's epidemic. And let's get it straight, it's epidemic here in Santa Clarita, but it's epidemic across the country right now. So it's across the country we're having a explosion, an epidemic when it comes to opiates, and that includes heroin, and also includes all the other pills that come along with it, the Vicodin, the Oxys, the Roxys, and I can go on for days.
How many people are you seeing impacted by drug use, not only heroin, but just in general drug use?
Well, in general, here's some of the latest statistics, which is really frightening. 1 in 7 Americans are going to have some kind of a drug problem. I don't know anybody who doesn't know somebody that drugs have affected right now. I don't know anybody that isn't affected by drugs somewhere in their little world.
So in the last, I know you've been dealing with this for, you said 35 years.
Correct.
Is it getting worse? Is it getting better?
I've been screaming for the last 10 years that the opiate, I would call it explosion because it wasn't an epidemic, but we saw it coming because we're right in the middle of the war when it comes to alcohol and drugs. But I've been screaming for 10 years, it's going to get bad. It's going to get real bad. It's going to get worse than it was in the 70s, and we're going to lose a lot of lives. We could see it coming.
We just lost one this week.
We just lost one this week. Tragic.
And what are we seeing in Santa Clarita? I mean, this last week seems a little different than lately.
If you follow the media when it comes to drug whatever you want to call it, issues in America, you'll see they'll focus on some little town where there's 15 deaths. Then they'll focus on places like Santa Clarita where there's 8 overdoses. So you really got to take a look at, it's not that we have more drugs, or they're different at different times, meaning they're cut differently. The strain of the heroin that's coming in could be cut with fentanyl. I'm not going to say for sure because we have to wait for the toxology reports, so we're not sure. But the word I'm getting from the street right now, from the addicts, is that they're cut with fentanyl, and people are getting scared.
And what is fentanyl?
Fentanyl is a pain medication, but it's 100 times stronger, 50 to 100 times stronger than heroin.
Wow.
So when these people are shooting dope, it really is. It's Russian roulette. You never know what's in that syringe. You never know what that heroin is cut with. And you know what's really frightening? I'm speaking to all these heroin addicts that I deal with, and they're all saying the same thing. It's Russian roulette. We know we're going to die if we don't stop.
Right.
This is right from the addicts themselves. So it could be a lot of different things. When you see that many overdoses, it's one of two things. Either it's really, really potent, or it's really, really cut.
And I know we've heard about that trend, and it's kind of, where are you seeing it though? Is it certain pockets of the nation? Is it hitting certain populations? In certain neighborhoods where there's more money, less money?
I don't think any neighborhood or anyone's immune to it. People are saying, well, we live in Santa Clarita, there's lots of kids, lots of money, it's a great place to raise your kids, and boy, I moved here for that reason. But when it comes to drug addiction or drugs, period, it's not prejudice to any community. it's gonna find itself wherever it is, and unfortunately, I hate to say this, but where there's money and a lot of children and families, that's where drugs is. It's not like it used to be.
And drugs and drug addiction doesn't know a zip code. It doesn't know your
Exactly.
doesn't know your pocketbook. It doesn't know your bank
Uh-huh.
account or what clothes you're wearing. It just
Right.
knows that it can really infiltrate anywhere.
Exactly, and right now we are in the midst of a real crisis. And see, I run and own out and treatment centers. You know what's really scary right now is our adolescent treatment centers a year ago was packed. Most of the phone calls we got were parents frightened because their kids were smoking pot, drinking alcohol, flunking and having problems in school. The problem with that now is when we get phone calls from parents and saying, what was in my kid's drug test, and we go 800 milligrams of THC. Now a year ago they'd be frightened and they'd rush to treat these kids. They're not frightened anymore. They go, that's it, and they hang up. So these kids are not getting treatment at a young age. All statistics say the younger you attack a drug problem, the better chance these kids have. So they're not getting treatment right now because society, we're saying what's legal.
Right.
So these kids are starting with pot and they're ending up with other problems. I'm not saying everybody who smokes marijuana is going to become a heroin addict. But what I am saying is almost every heroin addict I ever met started with marijuana.
With it legalized, you're seeing more people starting to kind of make that transition.
Well, I'm seeing more people making that transition, but even more frightening than that, I'm seeing more parents not wanting to deal with it. So our adolescent treatment centers from 13 to 18 is dwindling, when our adult population now is exploding, especially the 18 to 25-year-olds, because when we're young, there's two type of addicts. Let's look at, people are saying to us, why are we having this problem? Why is it an epidemic? It's really pretty simple. I could put it in a nutshell. There's two type of addicts. Number one, when we're young, we all have what I call contracts. When I grow up, I want to be a newspaper reporter, or I want to be a boxer, or a cop, or a lawyer, something in the field of helping. That's what most kids want. Then they have another set of contracts. When I grow up, here's things I never want to do. I'm not going to use drugs, I'm not going to rob banks, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to take care of business, right? So what is the real gateway drug? The real gateway drug used to be cigarettes. Because we know there's only two reasons an adolescent would light up a cigarette, right? One, to be cool like all the other kids, and two, is to learn behavior from home. I hope parents are listening to this. So these are the kids that decide, okay, I'm going to hang out with these cool guys, and they're hanging out, and somebody says, you want a cigarette? Oh, no, I don't want to die of cancer. The more they hang out, they're getting what you call desensitized. So they want to be with the cool guys, just a matter of time. Want one? No. Want one? No. Well, why not? It's only a cigarette. So they take their first hit, which means they broke their first contract. How do they clean that up? It's simple. It's only a cigarette. I'll never smoke weed. By the way, now what's changed now, it's not cigarettes, it's vaping.
Yeah.
So let's get that straight. I really believe cigarettes and vaping is the gateway drug. So they say, I'll never use drugs. They're still hanging out with all these cool kids. Somebody comes in and they have some weed. Try this. Oh, no, I'll never use drugs. What do you mean drugs? It's only pot. That's the problem with society right now, and families. It's only pot. They're saying to themselves, no, but they're watching their friends. They don't see all the long-term effects. It's going to mess with their short-term memory. It's going to take their motivation. Their grades are going to go down. I can go on for days when I see what happened to these children. So they finally take their first hit. What'd they just do?
Opened up a whole can of worms.
Exactly. People say they broke another contract. Contracts were broken the first one.
Yeah.
They opened up a whole another set of worms. What happens now is they not only did they break a contract, but they smoked something that made them feel different and better than anything they felt before. How do you tell someone 14 that's bad?
Especially when they're going through all these chemical changes with, adolescents and whatnot.
Exactly. So what happens now is they clean it up. It's only pot. I'll never use anything else. And you know what? They really do mean it. All the other drugs are what I call drugs of opportunity. Once they start smoking cigarettes, drinking booze, smoking weed, they're at a party, they're 15 or 16. I could tell you what's at the parties with these kids right now. They'll tell you everything. You're going to find pot, cocaine, speed, they're smoking heroin. It's all at these parties. So they're at a party, they're smoking a little bit of weed, they're drinking a little bit of booze. Somebody said, try this, dude. Oh, no, I'll never use hard drugs. They drink a little bit more. They smoke a little. Well, maybe one hit won't hurt.
Their defenses come down.
Their defenses come down. So they take their first hit. How many times do you need to take a hit of crystal meth to get addicted?
Once.
Once, because it's a shortcut to the pleasure zone of their brain. Soon as they smoke that, it's like, whoa! And they feel different and better than anything they've ever felt before. That's why we overdose, because they're chasing that wonderful feeling that they got at first. Same with opiates. One time, and if you have that personality of addiction, where you obsess and you're compulsive, you could see it in little kids, and when they want to collect Super Balls, it's not one, it's 400. You could see the little personality. So they go to that party and they take that one hit and they're off to the races. So it's pretty scary. And so that's the one addict that's got the addiction disease, that is going to experiment until, boom, they find that right drug. Now we're also seeing a different kind of an addict, one that has no history of substance abuse that we're treating right now. Maybe they went to the doctor, they had surgery. They had to be on prescription pills. They left the doctor, they were giving them morphine. They left the hospital after all these IVs, and they with a bottle of Vicodin. They take one every 4 hours. That's not going to work. Right. So they're taking 4 every 4 hours, and then 6, and then 8. So they're getting physically addicted to these drugs. So we're treating a lot of those people, and they're staying on them for a long time, because every time they try to stop, they're going through withdrawals, which makes them feel they have more pain. Right. So it's a constant vicious cycle with that. And the problem with that is we're finding actually really professional people that are addicted to pain meds, and they're doctor shopping. The doctors are saying enough, so they're hitting the streets now, and they're ending up smoking heroin because it's a lot cheaper, and they're saying to themselves, I'm going to smoke it, I'm not going to shoot it.
And is it treatable? I mean, addiction itself.
All addiction is treatable. What people need to know is that they don't have to do it by themselves, that there are professionals out there that know how to treat addiction. And I mean, it takes a specialist. If you have cancer, you're not going to go to a guy that's going to pull your teeth. So you want to really find somebody that really specializes in treating chemical dependency.
And so for some of these parents who have children that they may be thinking, you know what, my child may be impacted by some kind of drug, or whether it be cigarettes or vaping. And then even those parents who say, you know, my child is perfect, my child, straight A's, 4.0 GPA, more, even higher than that. Would you recommend that all parents of, you know, any style, any type of child,
right,
would they just have this conversation or even talk to them about it?
You can't talk to your kids enough about it. And I'm hearing from parents all the time, well, what age? Any age. When they first can understand words is when you want to talk to them, because you want to hardwire your children when they're really young to make good decisions. So there's 3 categories of kids, if we're going to talk kids. Category number 1, no matter what kind of a mom and dad you are, your kid's a level-headed kid. They know exactly where they want to go in life, and when things start going bad with their friends, they back off, and they hang out with the other people. They want to make good choices. The next category, and this is the smallest, everyone thinks it's one of the largest. Next category is the high-risk kids. They're going to use drugs. They're going to fight. They're going to ditch class. They're going to drive fast. They're going to get themselves in trouble. We really have to supervise those kids. Right. Category number 3, and this is the largest category, and this is the scariest part, is they're the fence sitters. They're the kids that can go either way. With all those corny sayings, families that pray together, families that eat together, they stay together. These are the kids we're losing today. Because, you want to hear something really scary? Yeah. The average parent, how long do you think the average parent spends talking to their teenagers a day?
Nowadays. Working 1 or 2 jobs sometimes, and maybe 3.
2 to 10 minutes. And I've been taking surveys for over 10 years. 2 to 10 minutes. How was your day? It was good. How was school? It's okay. Do you have any homework? I done it. Are you hungry? I ate. What is the last thing a 13-year-old girl or boy does before they go to sleep? Last thing.
On the phone?
Check their social media. The very last thing. What is the first thing they do when they wake up before they use the restroom?
Phone.
Check their social media. So they go to sleep with their friends now. They wake up with their friends. They walk out of their bedroom, say hi to mom and dad if mom and dad lives together. It's a 2-minute conversation. Maybe they drive them to school, probably not. They go to school, who are they hanging out with?
Same people.
Their friends. And they come home from school, who's waiting for them? In most homes, mom and dad works. Who's waiting?
No one.
That's not true. Everyone, either in person or on their social media.
Mm-hmm.
So we come home, have that 2-minute conversation, they're back in their room, what are they doing? With their friends. So if I walked into a school and I did a little assembly, and I today say, what is the most important thing in your world? Most of the kids are gonna say what? My friends.
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, if I asked the same question in the same classroom, in the same school, it would have been family.
Yeah.
Things change dramatically these days.
I'm seeing a lot of, that parent-child relationship strain ever since, the economic changes of 2007, 2008, where parents
Right.
had to work longer, take up another job.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing their kids less often. Instead of going to the movies on Saturdays, let's go to the movies every couple of months. Can't afford to go out and do this and do that.
Right.
And then you're seeing a little bit of this now where it's kind of the new norm. It's not because of anything. This is just how it is.
And it's not that it's even anyone's fault.
Right.
I just want to bring awareness that we need to spend time with our kids. We need to speak to our kids about alcohol, drugs, sex, violence, dating when they're 3 years old and 6 and 7. It's not a conversation we have once when they're teenagers. It's a conversation we have always. If we're watching a TV show and there's some kind of situation that we can use as a teaching moment, use it. It's one of those kind of things. If we're going to dinner with our kids, put your phone in your pocket. I was at the restaurant, the local restaurant the other day, and I'm walking from my table to the restroom. Everyone's on their phone. The kids are texting their friends. The mom's checking Facebook to see how many likes there are. And the dad, who knows what he's out in space.
Mm-hmm.
So even when we're present now when it comes to social media, we're not even present anymore. Parents, it's funny, I speak in groups, I say, tell me about how you talk to your kids. Well, we communicate through texting. From the bedroom to the living room. Get up and talk to each other.
Yeah.
So if you want to know why we're having an epidemic, it's pretty simple. Number one, lack of family involvement. Extreme peer pressure when it comes to adolescents right now, and even young adults, even adults. Prescription medication that's stronger than has ever been before. Lack of concern about lesser drugs, as we call them. I'm hearing all this, heroin kills. Yeah, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wakes up and becomes a heroin addict. How about all drugs are bad? How about we educate our kids? If you start using drugs, there could be tremendous consequences. Versus, smoke some weed, don't worry about it, don't use hard drugs. That doesn't work. And the other thing that I think adults need to do is act like you talk, walk like you talk. That do what I say, not what I do doesn't work. If it's a parent, we come home and we drink 8 shots of tequila, take 3 benzos to go to sleep, and smoke some weed in the bedroom, our kids know that. So we really have to be the role model we want our kids to be.
If you could give some lasting advice to those who might be scared, those who might be, on all sides, those who may be looking at this saying, I'm afraid, I don't know what's going on in my town. Mm-hmm. People who say, my child is impacted by this. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid. I don't want them to end up in a coffin.
Right.
For those who are, dealing with with themselves, finding that I don't know what to do. I don't know who to go to. I'm afraid to, say anything. Who's going to care about me? Mm-hmm. If you can give all these people some advice, these people who are looking for comfort but looking for support at the same time,
Of course.
what would you tell them?
Well, one is I think that everyone should be afraid. Fear is not a bad thing, and knowledge is power. So find out what's going on in your community. Educate yourself about drugs and substance abuse. If you think that you have a problem, you do. It wouldn't cross your mind to say, do I have a problem? Unless you did. If you think that your child is having an issue, they probably are. Go with your gut. There's plenty of places and things that you can do to get help. You can always come to Action. We're for kids and parents. We meet every Tuesday night at Canyon High. It's free. You can call our 800 number. If we can't personally help you, we will make sure we find a place to do. And that's 1-800-367-8336. Check the back of your insurance card. It's on every insurance card that says mental health and substance abuse. There's a phone number there. You can call that. We have the county mental health here. We have the Child and Family Center. There's so many different places to get help. Well, I guess what I'm saying is make the phone call. Don't be afraid. And if you think, well, if I make the phone call, that if I'm asking for help, that makes me a loser, that makes you a winner. Losers don't make phone calls. Losers wait and say, oh, it's gonna get better. Things don't get better unless you want it to, unless you make it get better.
Take that step.
Take that step.
All right. Thanks, Cary. I really appreciate your time.
You got it.
And thank you all for joining us. And if you have any more questions, reach out to us online. You can find Cary online as well, Action Family Counseling, or at Henry Mayo Newell Hospital.